We're learning the Sicha on Simchas Torah, in Chelek Yutes, on page 380. Very geschmack Sicha. A lot of deep inyanim give us a better understanding and appreciation regarding the Simcha of Simchas Torah, the Simcha with the Torah, the Simcha with the Yidden, based on a Sicha of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Shir today is being learned L'le Nishmas, Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Kvei Kedushas Mari V'chami Admor hat amal gesagt in a Simchas Torah de Gesicha. Frierdiker Rebbe once said in a Simchas Torah de Gesicha as follows: Simchas Torah zenen taren psichen. On Simchas Torah the gates to heaven are open. As zenen offen the shari eire, shari brache, shari atzlacha. The gates of light, the gates of brache, blessing, and the gates of success are all open. Alle sha'arim zenen offen. All gates of heavens are open. Und das nennt man mit Torah. And to take all this, to take advantage of all this, it's through the Torah. Divrei Rabbi Seinu Nisiyenu zen meduyik betachlis hadiok. The words of the Rabbeim are precise. Every single word is exact. It's from them, was the Rebbe is mefaret biyichud, shari eire, shari brache, shari atzlacha. From this, that the Frierdiker Rebbe specified specifically these three gates. Eire, brache, and atzlacha. Afal pi, was sagt gleich weiter, even though the Frierdiker Rebbe himself immediately added, alle sharim zenen offen, that all gates are open. Is mochach, so it's clear, as der Iker Oiftu von Simchas Torah is was dan zenen offen die drei shiarim. That Simchas Torah, the main accomplishment is the fact that it's these three gates of Shari Eire, Shari Brach, and Shari Atzlacha which are open. Darf man verstehen? So the question is, was ist the Sheiches mi Yechedes von die drei shiarim zu Torah? What's the special connection of these three gates to the union of Torah, to the celebration of Simchas Torah? Noch mehr darf man verstehen. Even furthermore, the question is, Sis Yedua, so it's known as follows. As the Sheishis and Mebreishis, Zenik Keneged, the Shut Al Fishnin, that the Eibusha created the world in 6 days, corresponding to the 6,000 years of the world's existence. Is from them, was Brias Ha'oir is given b'Yom Rishon. So since the creation of light is on the first day of creation, far dem Yom HaShlishi, before the third day of creation, was es keneged dem Elef HaShlishi, which corresponds to the 3,000 of the year's creation, in Velachis is given Matan Torah, in the time period when Matan Torah occurred. Is Mochrach L'chayra, so seemingly it's clear, as the Rinyan from Shari Eire, the gates of light, which are created on the first day, is nita pengik in Torah, is not dependent on Torah. You can have light on the first day of creation without Torah. Similar regarding Shari Bracha, blessing. Is doch Yedua, so it's known as eine von die Taimim, was the Torah hype zachamit ha-beis. One of the reasons that it's explained why the Torah begins with the letter beis is weil beis is Lashon Bracha. Because beis represents Bracha, it's the first letter of the word Bracha, blessing. Is doch der Inyan from Bracha gleich gewähnt bas Cholas Abriya. So if so, we see that Bracha was there at the time of Bereshis, on the first day when Hashem creates the world. Is was sagt man, Ashari Bracha sind verbunden dafke mit Bracha, mit Torah, that is. Why do we say that the gates of Bracha is connected specifically with Torah? The Shaila is noch größer, the question is even stronger. Wie bald as Eilam al Miluay Nivre, since the world was created full, as Chazal tell us, Kumtais, so what does this mean full? So this includes also as that Inyan HaBracha, was is menum is in the base from Bereshis. The Bracha that's included in the first letter of Bereshis is Shen Be'ez, Abriya, Geven, B'miluay. The Bracha is there complete, full. So in other words, if you may think and say that there's various levels to Bracha, so maybe the Bracha of Torah is a higher level of the Bracha that there was in the beginning of creation, but it's not so. Chazal tell us the world's created full, including this Bracha, which was to its fullest capacity. The same is true regarding the level of light on the first day of creation. And the Yisayrim is doing even more so, but the contrary, is doch der Oish and Nivre b'Yengim gewen onakbalas. The light that was originally created in the beginning of creation was without any limitations. K'mayim Razal, as the Gemara tells us, as Adam tzoyfe umabed boy misoyf ha'olam atzoyfe. With the light from the beginning of creation, Adam Rishon was able to see from one end of the world to the other. The greatest level of light was already there on the first day of creation, before Torah. So this haste, what this means is, nit blois was the klolas hametzias von Eire Bracha. is nit tali dafke in Torah. It's not only that in general, the idea, the existence of light and blessing are not dependent on Torah, nor euch die eure und brache, wie sie seine betachlis ha-shleimus, seine nit tali in Torah. Light and brache, to its highest and fullest degree, is not dependent on Torah. Was sagt man, as das nennt man dafke mit Torah. So why does the Friediger Rebbe say that the open gates of brache, eure and brache, this is something that we can take only through Torah? So seemingly, this could be answered as follows. As the Shleimus von der Brie, wie sie ist mit Zadatzma. The Shleimus that Chazal speak about, the fact that the world is created full, with the levels of Eire and Bracha, the way it is in the beginning of creation, Mitzad Nevrayim, as it is in the existence of creation, then, which, as I said, includes also the beginning of creation, when the world is created full, is das Alts Ashleimus Mitagbala. There is a fullness that the world is created with the level of godliness and with the light and bracha, but all with a certain limitation, what the world could handle. So therefore, this is not the true ultimate shleimus, the ultimate perfection you can come through to, which is only through Torah. Und der Far sagt man, and therefore the Friediger Rebbe says, as die Shari Eire und Shari Brache, that these gates, the gates to heaven, and Eire of Brache, net men dafke mit Torah. This can be accepted only through Torah. Weil mit Eire und Brache da meint men de emmese Eire und Brache. Here we're referring to a much higher level, the true Eire and Brache, wie sie zene betachlas hashleimus, as they are in their source, in their ultimate perfection, without any limitation whatsoever. Das heißt, wie sie zene mitzad dem Eibischen. The way it is, from the Eibish's perspective, the emmese shalom. Real peace, not peace that applies and is related to the existence of the world on a certain level that's in the limitations of the world, but the true source of peace, the Eibish's level of peace. And therefore, sorry, let me go back again. Let me just reinterpret that. When it says over here, it's not peace. We're not speaking about peace here. We're talking about Eire and Bracha, but we're speaking about emes shalem, the real completeness, the way things are from Hashem's level, referring to the Eire and Bracha. So therefore, net mendos mit Torah. So this is something that one can take and have only through Torah. Because it's known. Hat Matan Torah arabgenommen the mechitze zwischen al yainem und tachteinem. The Medrash tells us that Matan Torah removed the separation between the upper worlds, or Ruchnius, and the lower worlds, or Gashmius. Und durch Torah nennt man alle Inyanim wie sie sind mitzad dem Elyon, mitzad dem Beire. Through Matan Torah, and from Matan Torah forward, we're able to take everything not only in our standards, in the way it is in our reality, but also the way it is in its source, in the Eibishter's world, by the Beire, by the Creator. And that's the kayach of Eire and Bracha that the Friediger Rebbe is speaking about, that one can take through Torah. Aber der Bier is nit maspik. However, this explanation is not sufficient. Because Aleph number 1, lefizez ikke chasam en sefer. If so, the main point here is missing in the words of the Friediger Rebbe. Wie bald as the klal is saying von Eire und Bracha, since we're saying that generally the Eire and the Bracha are not fille wie sie sind b'miluam, and even the way they are in their completeness in the beginning of creation. Zenedach euch on Torah, they are available without Torah. Hat me gedacht madgish sein, so the Friediger Rebbe should emphasize, as durch Torah nennt man die Eire und Bracha wie sie sind mitzat shleimus habeire. There should be some kind of a clarification there, that we're not simply talking about Eire and Bracha, but we're talking about Eire and Bracha on a completely different level. The Eibish's perspective, that comes through Torah. There's some other clarification here. But the Friediger Rebbe just simply says Shari Eire, Shari Bracha, and he doesn't add any details what level of Shari Eire and Bracha he's speaking about. Then there's an additional point there. Dem Tam was mit keveh given Simchas Torah b'yomtiv sheni from Shmini Atzeres. The reason given for why Simchas Torah, the celebration with Torah, is established to be on the Yomtiv Sheni of Shmini Atzeres, and not on Shavuos, which is Matan Torah Seiner. That would be the most appropriate time for Matan Torah, or for Simchas Torah, that is, on the day that Hashem gave the Torah. So the reason is weil the Simcha from Simchas Torah is verbunden mit die Luchas Shnias, shenitne b'yom Kippurim, because the Simchas Torah is in connection with the second set of Luchas that were given on Yom Kippur. Which Chazal tell us that they gave us Torah a double portion, much more than there was in the first luchas, and that's what we're celebrating on Simchas Torah. So now if so, and as the Verter, das nennt man mit Torah. When the Frierdiker Rebbe says regarding Shari Eira and Shari Bracha, that you can get the Eira and the Bracha with Torah, what was he referring to? It's following what he says in the beginning of that statement, that Simchas Torah zenen tarem psichen. That on Simchas Torah, the gates of heaven are open. Is move on, so it's understood as mit den Loschen, mit Torah. When the Frierdiker Rebbe says you take the Eira and the Bracha with Torah, what is he referring to? Meint der Torah, wie sie es verbunden mit Simchas Torah. He's referring to the level of Torah that we celebrate on Simchas Torah. Das heißt, mit dem Meilu von Torah, was ist zugekommen bei der Nesine von Luchas Shnias, the level of Torah that was added when Yidden were given the second set of Luchas. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about. So if so, the question is, and we bald azay, if so, afil loib mizal sagen, as mit Shari Eire Cholu meinter, die Inyane, wie sie sehen mitzat Shleimus Habayre, even if Shari Eire does not refer to the level of light and blessing that's available in the beginning of creation, according to the level that the world could handle, a limited level of light and blessing. But it's referring to a level of Eire and Bracha that comes through Matan Torah, that broke through all boundaries, and therefore it's a level that comes from the Eibishter's reality. Is doch auf dem maspik in Torah, wie sie es mitzad luchas rishonis. However, you should still be able to get this level of Eira and Bracha with the level of Matan Torah that comes with the first set of luchas. Was verbindet man das mit Simchas Torah dafke? Why is this connected specifically to Simchas Torah as the beginning of the statement of the Frierdiker Rebbe? We're talking about the open gates of heaven on Simchas Torah, which is related specifically to the luchas shnias. What is unique about Eira and Bracha that you can get only through the Simcha of Simchas Torah? Okay, so the Rebbe here will give us a much deeper understanding in what the Frierdiker Rebbe was speaking about in these few short words, Shari Eira, Shari Bracha, Shari Yatzlacha, that there's a tremendous depth that's here in these few words, and the gates of heaven that are open on Simchas Torah that we get specifically on Simchas Torah. That misverstehen behagtem, so we'll understand this first by prefacing was in Simchas Torah gefindt men drei inyanim. Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about the three gates, so there's actually three different aspects that we find in Matan Torah. Was then endlich zu die drei shi'arim hanal that are similar, corresponding to these three gates: Shari Eira, Shari Bracha, and Shari Yatzlacha. So what are the three things? In the meaning from Yom Tov Sheni. So number one, Simchas Torah is a Yom Tov Sheni. It's the second day of Yom Tov that we keep in Galus. There are two aspects to every Yom Tov Sheni. Aleph number one, via Yom Tov Sheni, is that Amasuviv and Hemshech from Yom Tov Rishon. As the word Yom Tov Sheni indicates, it's a second that follows and comes out from the first day Yom Tov. So it's related really, it's another day after or connected to the first day of Yom Tov. But then there's another aspect in Yom Tov Sheni. In Im kommt zu der Ilui von Arevim alai divrei serfim. There's a certain level that you have only on the second day, which is the Yom Tov Midrabanan that Chachamim added, because as Chazal tell us that something Chachamim instituted is sweeter and is something that's deeper, azach, and therefore this is something versus Nitav Yom Tov Rishon that you do not have on the first day of Yom Tov. So it's not only following a second after the first, but there's something unique and special about the second day of Yom Tov that Chachamim instituted. That's the second aspect. And Azai is das by Yada Yom Tov Sheni. This is true regarding every Yom Tov Sheni, so therefore we have two aspects in Simchas Torah. The fact that it's the Yom Tov Sheni of Shmini Atzeres, and the fact that the Yom Tov Sheni itself is sweeter, has something deeper. Simchas Torah kommt dazu a dritte Inyan. But then in Simchas Torah, there's a third aspect to the Yom Tov Sheni. This was explained many times as von dem was hat aber Sunde nomen, the fact that Simchas Torah has another name, Simchas Torah. It's not just called Shmini Atzeres. It's mochach as es hat in sich that this day has in it. Neus if dem was is dem Yom Tov Sheni the Shmini Atzeres. In addition to the fact that it is the second day of Yom Tov of Shmini Atzeres. Oich an eigene minyan. It also has its own content, its own thing. The inyan from Simchas Torah, the celebration of Simchas Torah, which is unique on this day, that's special, not in continuation and not connected to Shmini Atzeres. So therefore it comes out that we have over here three different aspects to the day of Simchas Torah. the fact that it's a follow-up of the first day, the fact that it's a Yom Tov Sheni, which has its own unique Maila of Arevim Alai Divrei Seifrim, and then this new Inyan and the main Inyan of the day, which is Simchas Torah, a new name, a new subject. On Kishain, wie bei the Minyan from Yom Tov Sheni. So just like it is when we say regarding the Yom Tov Sheni, Chach es Bleis mit Divrei Seifrim, even though it's only mit the Rabbanan, is Adarabah, but we say that on the contrary, Mitzadem Gufe, Faran and Imam Maila of Yom Tov Rishon. Because of this itself, the Chachamim instituted this, it has something greater than the first day. Ukanal, as we quoted, that the institution that Chachamim made is even sweeter and deeper than Torah. The same is also true when it comes to the third Chiddush of the day, the fact that it's Simchas Torah is Chosh, das is nitken chi of Klal, the whole celebration of Simchas Torah that we conclude reading from the Torah and we celebrate is no obligation at all. Afilinit medivrei seifrim, not even mit the Rabbanah. It's not mentioned at all as an obligation, not even the Chachamim instituted. It's not a minig. It's just a custom. Koloshen Azayah, it's mentioned in the Zayar as follows: V'noyagin, that it's a customary, L'mevad Yisrael imo chedva, that the Yidden celebrate with the Torah, V'skarias Simchas Torah, and the day is referred to as Simchas Torah. So the Zayar is specific by referring to it as a minig. However, mitzadem gufe, even though it's seemingly much less significant and much less obligatory, but it's for this reason itself, in imda ma'ila neisefes, it has a greater level, a greater advantage of the erste tzvei inyanim. More even than the other 2 points that we spoke about, the fact that it's the Yom Tov Sheni of the first day, and the fact that it's an obligation midrabanan and arevim alayim divrei seifrim yesim divrei Torah. This is even greater. This is just a minig, but a minig comes from an even deeper source. As explained in many places, as a minig Yisrael hat a meile, was is nit da in aniyin deiraisa und nit in divrei seifrim. A minig is even deeper and has a greater advantage, even more than an obligation min ha-Torah, and even more than something that Chachamim instituted. So these are the 3 levels of Simchas Torah, related to Minat Torah, Yom Tov Sheni being connected to Minat Torah the first day, the Divrei Seifrim, the institution with the Rabbanan, and then the Minig, a Minig that we are noyeg, like it says in the Zayar, to celebrate with the Torah. So the Rebbe will elaborate and explain very clearly these 3 points in relation to the 3 gates that the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about that are open on Simchas Torah, the Shari Eire, Shari Bracha, and Shari Yatzlacha. Die drei in Yanam Anal. But first, the Rebbe explains that these 3 points gefindt men euch in dem Inyan von Simchas Torah Gufe. Taking the 3rd point here, the minig of celebrating with the Torah, in this itself, you also find 3 aspects to this. What are they? Von dem Namen Simchas Torah. The name is referred to as it's Simchas Torah, celebrating with the Torah. Torah Stam. So it says Torah, we celebrate with Torah, not specifying what level of Torah, which aspect of Torah is muchach, so it's clear as the Simchas verbunden mit Torah bechlal, that the Simcha of Simchas Torah is connected to Torah in general, all levels of Torah. But Torah bechlal is gegeben geworden mit Luchas Rishonis. If so, this includes also the Luchas Rishonis, the way Torah was given in the beginning with the first set of Luchas. So that's one aspect of the celebration of Simchas Torah. Yet, as Kedel Elsif Beis is quoted before, the time of Simchas Torah is Nikka geworden b'Shmini Atzeres. The reason why Simchas Torah was established to be specifically on Shmini Atzeres, und nit b'Chag HaShavuos, and not on Shavuos, is weil the Simcha von Simchas Torah is verbunden be'Ikke mit Luchas Shnias, because the main Simcha is celebrating the Eibishter gave us the second set of Luchas. As the Luchas Shniyos, now what's unique about the second set of Luchas, besides what the Rebbe quoted before, that the Eibusha gave us a double portion with the second set of Luchas, but there's another thing that it says that's unique about the second set of Luchas, then an Teirisha B'Ksav Gufa B'Dugmas Divrei Seifrim. Even though it's also, of course, Teirisha B'Ksav, the second set of Luchas is the Aseres HaDivros, the way it appears in Parshas Vaschanon, but it's similar to what Chachamim came and added and instituted. This is what the Rebbe brings from based on what it says in the Medrash, the Rebbe quotes. So the in Torah Gufe, the second set of Luchais is something that's been added later, and therefore it's similar to the Divrei Seifrim. So that's the second aspect of the celebration of Simchas Torah. Sorry about the noise, we are in Brooklyn, New York over here, in Crown Heights. Kansi Vashemes Abracha. Okay, so now the 3rd aspect, on der Inyan for Simchas Torah Gufe. And then, besides celebrating the first Luchais and celebrating the second luchos, which are similar to Divrei Seifrim, to what Chachamim add. So then you have Simchas Torah itself, which is the actual celebration of completing the Torah. Das was Yidden machen Simchas Torah. The fact that Yidden established the joy of Simchas Torah is a minig Yisrael. This is just a custom. The minig that Yidden, it's customary for Yidden to rejoice with the Torah. So we see here three different aspects in the inyan of Simchas Torah itself. On Ayais, and since, as we said before, as a minig Yisrael, they're lang teche from Torah. A minig is drawing from a deeper place even than Torah itself. On Afilu from Divrei Seifrim, even higher than what Chachamim instituted. Kanal Sif Gimel, as quoted before. The far zok the Zayar, so therefore the Zayar says, Behemshach zu noig in Chulu v'skariya Simchas Torah. After the Zayar says that we have a minig, that we celebrate Simchas Torah, and the day is referred to as Simchas Torah. So what does the Zayar say? Uma'atrin l'sefer Torah b'kesed dilei. We crown the Torah with its crown. What's the significance of the crown? As nachdem, that following this that the Zayar says, and durch them, through this, was Yidden zene sich noig, lemevdeba ima chedva, lemeved chulu ima chedva, the fact that Yidden expressed their rejoicing with the Torah in this minig, machen ze a kesed zu Torah. That draws down and that connects them to the crown of Torah. But Kesed Torah is Hachaf and Torah. The crown of Torah is higher than Torah itself. Afiluf and Torah viziz mitzad luchas shnius and divrei seifrim. Even higher than the Torah on the level of midrabanan. That's even deeper than the Torah shebiksav. So those again are the three levels of Simchas Torah. We have it regarding the day B'chlal, which is related to Shmini Atzeres, as the Rebbe explained before in Sif Gimel. And we also have it in relation to Simchas Torah itself, celebrating Torah in general, including Luchas Rishonos, celebrating specifically the Luchas Shniyos, which is related to what Chachamim add into the Torah, and then the minig of Simchas Torah. So what are these three levels? What's the significance of them, and how are they connected to the 3 points of Shari Eira, Shari Bracha, and Shari Yatzlacha? So the Rebbe will explain. So the explanation here is as follows. Der Tam, was die Luchas Shnius, zenen heche von die Luchas Rishonos. Kiflayim l'tishia. So what's the reason? What's the explanation why the second set of luchos are higher than the first set of luchos? As Chazal say that it's considered to be double. And double here doesn't necessarily mean literally double, but it's in a completely different level. What's the mile of the second set of luchos? Is valzei zene gekommen durch Avedes HaTshuva von Yidden. Because the second set of luchos came after the Chet Egel, and then Yidden did tshuva, and the Eibusher said Salachti Kedvarecha on Yom Kippur, and the Eibusher gave the Yidden the second set of luchos. So it's related to the Yidden's tshuva. On the Sheirish from the Shamis Yisrael is Hechef and Torah. What's expressed when a Yid does tshuva? The Sheirish of the Yid that's higher than Torah. When a Yid does Chas v'Shalom and Aveda and he gets disconnected from Torah, and according to the boundaries of Torah, so to speak, so now he's out, he's disconnected. But then the Yid has a deeper koyach inside of him that's higher than Torah to reconnect. So tshuva expresses the Sheirish of a Yid that's higher than Torah. And therefore, the Luchas Shniyos that follow the Aveda of Tshuva of Yidden expresses the connection of Yidden that's higher than Torah. That's the Maila of the second set of Luchas. Aber, however, wie bald as euch die Luchas Shniyos sind gegeben geworden am Maila. Even the second set of Luchas was given to the Yidden from above. The Eibusher gave the Yidden. So it's not an actual, the second set of Luchas is not the expression of the Tshuva itself. The tshuva caused the Eibusher to give them the second set of luchas. The Avedas HaTshuva of Yidden is given as sibbe. The fact that Yidden did tshuva was just a cause to the nesine von the luchas shniyos, that now the Eibusher gave them the second set of luchas. Aber the luchas shniyos guf is gegeben geworden l'mayla. But the second luchas were still given from above. The Rebbe, so therefore, is then an oich the luchas shniyos and inyan from Torah. So even the second set of luchas is still a level within Torah. Was in Shamis Yisrael is then in Hecher, and therefore Yidden are still above Torah. Not in Torah Gufe, in Torah itself. There are different levels in Torah. Zenezei kiflayim litushia. Because it's being caused and generated by the Avedas HaTshuva of Yidden, so this is a deeper level within Torah. Because this level of Torah is brought to Yidden and given to Yidden through their Aveda of Tshuva. So therefore this is yet a deeper level in Torah, but still another level within Torah. But when it comes to this, that the Yidden are fulfilling the minig that Yidden rejoice with the Torah. Wie bald as der ganze Inyan kommt von Yidden. Over here, what's a minig? A minig, there's no command, there's no chiyuv, not min Torah, not min Rabbanan. It's Yidden on their own that are coming, and they are creating this custom to come and rejoice with the Torah, with their own choice. So this is an expression of the Yidden's mile, of who they are. The far tutzachayiv durch dem the keset Torah. Here is where you bring and down and you connect to the crown of Torah. Was is hecher fun Torah. This is higher than Torah itself. Afilu vizi is keflayan utashia. Even higher and deeper than the double of the level, the deeper level of Torah that comes in the luchas shnias, in the second set of luchas. So that's the general explanation over here of the three levels of Simchas Torah. Celebrating the Torah the Eibishter gave us, celebrating the Luchas Shniyos, which is a deeper level of Torah, since it was caused by the Aveda of Tshuva of Yidden, but then it's the Shayrish of the Yidden itself, when they create a minig, and this minig of Yidden itself expresses the deepest level of connection that they have to the Eibishter, which is connected to the Keser of Torah. This will explain the connection of the three gates of heavens that are open on Simchas Torah, the gates of Shari Eire, Shari Bracha, and Shari Yatzlacha. The three aspects in Simchas Torah, Torah Bechlal, in general Torah, Mailas, Luchas Shnias, and then the special level of Torah, the deeper level of Torah, and the second Luchas. And then the minig, Lemevet Yisrael Ima Chedva, the minig that Yidden rejoice on Simchas Torah, Zene Bedugmas, Eira, Bracha, and Atzlacha, correspond to these three levels of Eira, Bracha, and Atzlacha, as the Rabbi will explain. So first, let's understand the difference between light and a blessing. Let's, on this, if you translate what light and what blessing really is, we'll see the difference between them. The Chelek zwischen Eira and Bracha bepashtus is. What's simply the difference between light and blessing? B'shas men bensteinen. When you come and bless somebody, what's happening here? Is men eisen dem mizbarach. Your focus is on the person that's being blessed. You're looking at his condition and what's going on in his life, and you're blessing him on his level for what he needs. As zal bekommen dem teichen brache, he should receive this brache, and haben davon atayelas, and he should have the benefit of this brache. So it's something that's being given or benching this person on his terms, on the terms of the receiver, the recipient, that he should have in his reality. On the other hand, when you use the expression of light, that's a whole different thing. Is verbunden nit mit der teyelas hamakabel. Light which is shining from a source is not something which is focusing and which begins with having in mind the benefit of the recipient. Nor mit teva, in quotations, hamoir, but rather with the nature of the source of light. The source of light is so bright, and therefore it comes out from the source. The light that comes out is merely an expression of what the source itself is, not focusing and paying attention to what the recipient could handle and what the recipient needs on his end. Stafar, and therefore we see, is migidrei ha'or. One of the things that define light is as the nimshach b'derech mamela. Even light, the way it exists b'gashmi, so the light, for example, that comes from the sun, it comes automatically. There's no specific effort that the sun is focusing and paying attention to what the recipient, the world, is getting from its light, and therefore providing that. The light comes out automatically. The sun exists, and the brightness, the ray of the sun that comes out, comes out from it. And therefore it's not at all connected to the level of the recipient. Adarab, it's just a reflection of what the source itself is. The source itself is coming out in the light. Or Nachmer, even more so, the expression that it says in the Gemara is, Shimsha akula almanaiche. The light of the sun spreads out to the entire world. Biz, to the point, as it is meir oich b'makim ashpa. The light of the sun reaches everywhere, including in a place where it's full of garbage. Chach in the roof is nitaken tayelas, even though bringing light in a place where there's just a garbage dump doesn't serve any purpose. But it doesn't matter. The light is not focusing on the recipient of what purpose and what need it fills for the recipient, but it just comes from above, just a reflection of the source. So we see here that these two expressions of Eira and Bracha are really sort of opposites. Bracha is focusing on the makabel, on the recipient, and Eira is punkt verkehrt. It's a reflection of what the source is. Und das ist the Sheiches, so therefore now we can see and understand the connection zwischen Luchas Rishaynis, Luchas Shnias, mit Shari Eira and Shari Bracha. We can see the connection of the first Luchas and the second Luchas, with the two expressions the Friediger Rebbe said, the two gates of heaven that are open on Simchas Torah, the Shari Eira and the Shari Bracha. The Rebbe explains, By the Nesine von Luchas Rishonis. When the Eibishter gives the first Luchas, is given that Goshe, what was mainly emphasized then, what happened at Matan Torah, Be'ikr, primarily, the Nesine Molmaila, Hashem granting from above, Hashem opening up the heavens and coming down from above. Nit azoi, the Adgoshe, the emphasis was not so much as Yidden, that the Yidden themselves sollen frier veren ashemeya umevin umekabel umisachet beyichid nifla. That Yidden should be a listener. There's many expressions that Rabbi uses here. That Yidden should be a listener, understand, receive, and be unified with the wondrous unity with Torah. Like it is when a person understands the seichel of Torah, so he becomes unified with the Torah, with the Torah that he's learning. So that wasn't so much the emphasis at the time of Matan Torah, the comprehension that Yidden should receive the Torah. And therefore is bepayel hominis Yidden mitzad zeir matzav chulu. So therefore, in actuality, what ended up happening is so Yidden, with their condition at the time of b'shas Matan Torah b'chag Shavuos, nit teifis v'kailet geben. They didn't fully grasp and internalize and absorb the revelation that came from above. They weren't kalim for this. They weren't prepared for this, and therefore it came a tremendous revelation from above, but not on the level that the recipient, the Yidden, could handle. And therefore, so the first luchais that came in Matan Torah is connected to the oira, to the light, to the gates of heaven that are connected to light that opens up. Val the Adgoshe in Oir, as we said before, is kanal. What's being emphasized in the expression of light? Das was the Moir is Meir, that the source is being reflected in the light. It's the source that's being opened up at the time of Matan Torah, and that's one of the aspects of Simchas Torah as well, where we celebrate Torah in general, including the revelation of Matan Torah, and therefore Sharei Oira are open on Simchas Torah. And there's then the luchais shniyos, but then when the Eibusha gives the second set of luchais, it's not a repetition, it's not just another set of luchais that's the same. It's a completely different thing, as the Rabbi already said before. They are being given to Yidden as a result of the Yidden's Aveda. The Yidden are generating this revelation through their Aveda from below. Hat die Tshuva von Yidden areisgerufen kaviyachal amayla as man soll sie geben die Luchais. So over here, since this is a response to the Yidden's Aveda, so the Luchais that are being given to them here is being given to them on their condition, that the Yidden should be a recipient. Das heißt, the Adgoshe in Zeh as Yidden soll mekabel, the koilet sein die Torah. Here the emphasis is that the Yidden are going to receive and absorb and take the second set of luchais. They prepared for this, they did shuvah for this, and therefore they're getting it on their terms, on their level. Therefore, zenen die luchais shniis verbunden mit shari bracha. So the second set of luchais is related to the expression of the gates of blessing that are open on Simchas Torah. Where the Adgoshe is oifim mizbarach. Here, the emphasis is on the one that's being blessed, on the recipient. As zobakumen di bracha, that he should receive the bracha on his level, to internalize it. So that's the relation of Shari Bracha to the second aspect of Simchas Torah, where we celebrate the second luchas. So here there's another important point, which comes from, of course, from what we say in L'Chodedi, that Soif Maisa, the end of the way things are, once it's done, is Machshavet Chila. This is rooted where it was in the beginning, in the plan, when a person had the thought in the beginning, which means, as the Kavane Pnimis is, so by the Eibishter as well, the real purpose of creation and the real purpose over here is speaking about Hashem giving the Torah is what? Is in Amshachas Ha'or. When Hashem gives the Torah, the light that's revealed from above is as on the skabel, v'nitvas, v'nisachet veren, ubepnimius in kelim. That it should be received, that it should come down to the recipient, it should be received, grasped, and unified, and internalized in the kelim, that to take it on the terms of the recipient in this world. So even though seemingly once it comes to the Yidden in the second set of luchais, so there's a tremendous mila that Yidden generate this, and the mila of Yidden, and the Yidden are on a much higher level, but nevertheless it's being given to them on their level, which is more limited. But nevertheless, Soif Ma'asav Machshavet Chila, that is the ultimate purpose. That's what Hashem wants, not just that there should be a revelation from above that shines everywhere. Like the Rebbe said before, even in a place which is garbage, which means it could shine on a Yid, but it doesn't change a Yid. The Yid could remain a person which, Chas v'Shalom, is full of things that don't belong in the life of a Yid. But no, the Torah should be grasped and internalized and affect the person. Far sind die Luchas Shniyais hecher von die Luchas Rishonis So therefore, the second set of luchos are higher than the first luchos. Even as far as the actual level of light that comes to the Yidden. So besides what the Rebbe said before, the Maila of a Yid, which is higher than Torah, but over here also when it gets internalized, so even though it seems to be more limited by the fact that the recipient is taking it b'pnimius, but this itself is rooted deeper. This limited light that a Yid receives over here in the second set of luchos is Soif Ma'aseh Machshavah Tchila. That's the real kavanah pnimis of what the Eibishter desired, and therefore this is much deeper. But now the Rebbe takes all of this, we're discussing until here, focusing the Siche, all on explaining Shari Oira and Shari Bracha. But now we have to come to Shari Yatzlacha. The gates of success are open in Simchas Torah, and that's going to be a big focus here in the next part of the Siche to explain what is this Shari Yatzlacha. And the Rebbe will take this to a level much deeper than what we spoke until now. And this is the third aspect of Matan Torah, the minig of Matan Torah, the minig of Yidden rejoicing with the Torah. The pnimiyus apirish. Now, there's a deeper explanation to this expression that we say in L'chadedi in Soif Ma'aseh Machshavah Tchila, when we say that the end of action is rooted in the beginning of thought. What does this mean? How is this understood simply? Simply, this would be understood that, let's say, a person has a certain plan, a certain project that he sets out to do. He's building a building, and he has this idea, this idea in his head, which is he foresees what it is going to be. When is it all coming out into actuality? Once all the stages in between are all leading up to the main purpose, which is once the project is done, the building is built, and all the rooms are ready to be lived in. There, Soif Ma'aseh, that's what's all of Machshavah Tchila, that's what he was all thinking about and what he foresaw in his vision in this whole plan. That would be the simple pshat. But the Rebbe here brings from what it says in Chassidus that there's a deeper pshat in the expression of Machshavah Tchila. It doesn't say Soif Ma'aseh that what you have at the end of all of it is B'tchilas HaMachshavah. That's in the beginning of a person's thought process, and that first spark that he had about this idea. Rather, it says B'machshavah, and then it says the word Tchila. So therefore, as we'll see here, the Rebbe will explain, Tchila that we speak about here is even higher than the very first idea and thought that he had in his Machshavah about this project. So therefore, the deeper pshat here is nit as das was man hat gewollt betchilas hamachshava. Not this level or this idea that a person had at that very first thought that he had about this project or this idea. Kum tarais in dem gemaram asiyeh. So that's fulfilled and that's expressed when you fulfill and finish the project. No, rather there's a deeper pshat here. As the seif was kum tarais fun da asiyeh. The seif that is a result that comes out after the finished project is done. So just like regarding Machshavah Tchila, I just pointed out that the Tchila is higher than Machshavah. The same is also with the expression of Soif Ma'aseh. The Soif is not the conclusion and the completion of the project itself, but it's a Soif, it's a certain end result that comes out even more even after you finish the project. Now, that the Rebbe will explain in a moment. The Rebbe will give an example in a moment for what he's speaking about. But first, let's see what the Rebbe says here. The seif that comes out after the asiyeh, la'achrei asiyeh, delangt in tchila, that's rooted and that really reaches deeper in the source of where it is in the person. Was is kaidem machshava, which is even higher than the thought, the idea that he originally had. Even deeper than that. Even before the very first thought that he had about this project, this idea that he wanted to do. So what does this mean? The example that's given for this, the Rebbe here is bringing from the Maimor of the Rebbe Rashab, from Ayin Beis. So he says there as follows. So the dugma of them von an Uma, a craftsman, which takes on a certain project. I mentioned before, a construction project, whatever it may be. A person has a certain project. Und die Melache is gekommen, and when he finishes his work, he sees that the work that he did is betachles hatoiv b'yaser. It came out to be so good and so perfect, b'derech hatzlacha, in an unusual, successful way beyond his imagination. There's the way he imagined it and the way he wanted it. But then, when he's done, besides the fact that he's done what he planned, when he walks away, he takes a look at now the result of what he has here. It's beyond what he even imagined. So over here, what happens is nicht the pshat as the uman hat sich lechatchile gericht as the melacha vet kommen b'derech hatzlacha. So over here, it's not that this craftsman originally was thinking and was planning and foresaw this kind of success and this kind of result of what there's going to be here. Weil das kann man nicht wissen, because this is something that you can't know in advance. when a person sets out for a certain project, you never know how it's actually going to come out. So therefore, kann sich nur annehmen zu tun die Melache. He could only plan and accept upon himself to do the work according to the level that he's accustomed to of what he could expect. So there's a certain limitation in the expectation that he has from the plan that he makes in his mind, and then bringing it down all the levels until he actually fulfills and does it. So there's a certain seder of what he knows that he can do. So that's something that he could expect. But over here, when he sees that there's something, a certain level of perfection, a certain level of beauty, that the result of his work is beyond what he imagined, so that's not something that's according to the seder of what he knows. Und the fact, therefore, is das, was die Malach is herausgekommen. The fact that the result of his work, noch mehr wie hat sich gericht betchilas hamachshava, even more than what he envisioned and what he was thinking of right in the beginning when he had this idea and this plan, b'derech hatzlacha. This is like an unusual, successful manner. Der langt in bechinas tchila. This is something that reaches deeper in the person. He has a much deeper pleasure. There's a much deeper sense of satisfaction in the work that he did, which is a level of tchila deeper in the person. It's even higher than that original plan that you envisioned when you began, when you were thinking about this. So that's the deeper pshat of soif maisa b'machshava tchila. That the seif of the Maisa, the unusual beauty and success in the Maisa, reaches into the tchila, into a deeper place of pleasure inside the person, even more than what he was thinking of in his machshava. So this is all, of course, being brought to explain this hatzlacha, this unusual success that a person sees in his work. So now we're going to apply this back to the concept of hatzlacha, the way it exists in a Yid's Aveda, in our connection to the Eibishter, and the sharei hatzlacha that are open on Simchas Torah. Al derech zeh, so similar we could say is oich derim from kaviyachal hatzlacha lamayla. So to say, there's also this concept of hatzlacha, success, that there is above by the Eibishter. Hayes, since as alle inyanav as anadala mata veren nishtal shel lamayla. Everything we see in the nature of the world here below is all evolving of the way the things exist above. So if we see this concept, this existence of hatzlacha in this world, the way that Rebbe just explained it, it exists by the Eibishter as well. And the pshat is as follows: the dire lo yizbarach, the dwelling for the Hashem that the Yidden create in this world. Was Yidden tun oiv durch their aveda, that Yidden accomplish through their aveda in this world, is betachlis hatoiv b'yose b'derech hatzlacha. To use the term that the Rebbe brought before, this is something which comes out with an unbelievable perfection in a very successful way, sort of even more than what the Eibishter envisioned. The Aveda of Yidden is a certain result and a certain beauty that's even beyond what the plan of creation was. Noch besser kaviyachol, even better kaviyachol, this is the ratzon betchilas hamachshava, than the ratzon of the Eibishter, than the will of Hashem that is in the beginning of Hashem's thought in creation. Kanal, like we said before in the mashal, regarding a person that sees an unbelievable success in the result of what he did, even more than what he envisioned. Now here the Rebbe immediately adds and says, Hagam, although it's obvious, as is poshit, as does gufa, that this itself, as the dire zal zayin betachlis atayv b'yesachol, this itself, that a Yid could do something in such an unbelievable, successful manner, even more than what the plan was in the beginning, is the kavanas habriya melchatchila. This itself is Hashem's purpose in creating the world. Hashem created the world for this purpose, that a Yid should have the koyach to do something even more than what the plan was in the beginning. So really all of this is in Hashem's plan. So if this all is in Hashem's plan, we can't really say that it's more than what Hashem envisioned. Das is over. However, we can still say that this is the bechinas tchila. This is a level of tchila. This is even a deeper level. This Yidden doing their Aveda of Dire B'Tachtenim connect to a level of the Eibishter that's even higher, which is higher than the thought and what Hashem envisioned in His ratzon of creating, in His will to create the world. Okay, so this obviously needs an explanation. What does this mean? On one hand, we're saying that whatever a Yid accomplishes, that's all Hashem's kavanah. That's what Hashem wanted. A Yid can't do anything that Hashem does not envision and plan for. So we're just fulfilling Hashem's kavanah of Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu liyas l'dire b'tachtenim. Yet at the same time, we're saying that the Aveda of a Yid, when he makes the dire b'tachtenim, this is going beyond the ratzon of the Eibishter in creation. This is reaching to a level of tchila within the Eibishter himself, which is removed of the plan of what Hashem had for creation. What is the explanation for this? So the beer in them. So to explain this, at least in short. So if you want to have the full story, you're going to have to take a look in the Mara Mekaimis and other 37 and other places here that the Rebbe is mitzayin to see the full arichas. But over here, at least in short, the explanation for what this means. So the first point is that tachlis hakavana is. What was Hashem's purpose? Why did Hashem create the world? What did Hashem want? As Yidden soll machen die Dire b'tachteinem, the Eibish's taiva, the Eibish's desire was that Yidden should create a dwelling for Hashem here below. But how? Durch their eigen Aveda. Not a Dire that comes from above. The Yidden are going to be the ones accomplishing and creating this dwelling. Aveda b'koyach atzmam, that it should be specifically an Aveda that Yidden are doing with their own power, on their own from below. Not being influenced by any revelation that comes from above. Not being influenced and just following along with any plan of creation that comes from above. But Yidden choosing this and coming to this on their own from below. That's the real idea of Dira b'tachtainim. That the Tachten himself is creating this Dira. That's the plan. That was the Eibish's kavanah. Okay, now the Rebbe continues. Vibalt as the rotzen of Elam is the desire that Hashem has to create the world, the source of creation. Just like in the mashal before, when we spoke about a person that sets out to do a project, it all begins with a certain rotzen. The person has a certain desire for something, and then from there he creates a certain plan with seichel, and then it comes down to his midas. He gets connected to it, and then he speaks about it, and then he does things. So it goes down a whole seder shtalshlus from rotzen through all of his keiches till it comes down to maisa. It's the same thing also when the Eibusha creates. So you have the actual creation that the Eibusha created in Sheshis Yemei Bereishis, but that the creation is rooted in the ratzon of the Eibusha to create. It all begins with, like the lashon that it always says, Bereishu Menisa de Malka. The Eibusha has the ratzon to create the world, the ratzon to create the worlds, and from there, that ratzon is the source of all different aspects that come out later in creation. So, vibalt as the ratzon of Elam is. So now, since the Eibusha's desire for creating the worlds, which includes the very first level of machshava. So as far up and high you want to go to the level of ratzon. Chassidus speaks about many different levels of ratzon. The ratzon agolo, a revealed level of ratzon, deeper. The highest level of Hashem's ratzon to create the world. Hot shayches to the bria is related to creation, and therefore has an impact on creation. What does this mean? We're not speaking over here about the expression of Hashem's will in its pure sense, what the Eibishter himself wants. We're speaking over here about the level of ratzon for Oilimus, where this is a level of ratzon which gives a significance to the existence of the world. The first source of the world having a certain significance. From the Eibishter's perspective, as the Eibishter is for himself, nothing else is teifes makam. There's nothing else that has any significance whatsoever. The ratzon for Eilamis is that first level which is connected and related to another existence of Eilamis. Of course, in the level of ratzon, this is to a very subtle degree, for sure, if we're talking about very high levels of ratzon. But nevertheless, the ratzon of Eilamis is related to the reality of the worlds. It's a ratzon that's connected and it impacts the existence of the worlds. The riber, so now therefore, is ot di kavana. The kavana that Hashem had for creation. In other words, the way Hashem envisions things to himself, not the level of ratzon which is related, which is the beginning of the actual process of creation connected to the mitzias of the world. But no, the kavana of Hashem, what Hashem is interested in doing in creation of the world, the Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu. Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu is not related to the mitzias of the world at all. But for Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu, Liyas Le'izbarech Dir B'Tachtainim, this that Hashem desires that there should be a dwelling for him here in this world. Durach der Avodah von Yidden in ganzem B'Koyach Atzmam. And that, as the Rebbe said before, has to occur through the Yidden doing the Avodah and completely on their own. So this Nis'ave, this Kavan of the Eibische, is nit herabgetragen geworden in Tchilas HaMachshava von der Bria. That does not come down, that does not connect at all, that does not have any relation whatsoever to the will of Hashem that is related to the existence of the world. These are two completely, totally different things. There is the kavan of the Eibishter, what he desires, that's to the Eibishter himself, not related to anything, not being affected by anything, not connected to anything. That's what the Eibishter wants himself, without any reason, without any explanation. As the famous vart that it says, the Alter Rebbe said, of atayvis ken kasha, meaning it's not related to anything, it's not connected to anything, it's not influenced by anything, it's the Eibishter in his purity, the way he is to himself, removed. That's what that nisava is. So that's not in any way related, and it doesn't come down. It's not going to be sensed in the level of the ratzin, which is related to the mitzias of the world. The level of the ratzin, which is the beginning of the world having some significance. This level of ratzin is a result of the fact that the Eibishter over here is connecting to a world that it should exist. So these two things are totally not associated to one another. Nor is the Yisrab Libin Behelem. So this kavan of the Eibishter himself, of what he wants, what he really wants in the world, the purity of Hashem's will, that remains completely concealed. B'chinas tchila, was is hecher von tchilas hamachshava, and this is the level of tchila that's even higher than tchilas hamachshava. Tchilas hamachshava is the level of Hashem's ratzon related to the existence of the world. But the tchila that's above machshava, that's the kavanah of Hashem as He is to Himself, removed of the mitzias of the world, which is not reflected in the existence of the world b'chlal. So therefore the result of this is, as the kavanah, this purpose that Hashem had, of nisavet, that Hashem wants it to be a dir b'tachtainim, poilt nit lamata. It doesn't have any actual impact. It's not at all sensed in the mitzias of the world. In the mitzias of the world, when it's created, that mitzias of the world is connected to the ratzon for olamus, for the ratzon of Hashem, that this reality exists, that we see the world as an existence, not the nisava kadosh baruch hu. The nisava kadosh baruch hu remains removed. Und die Dire leis barach, so therefore the creation of the Dire for the Eibishter wird aufgetan in ganzen durch der Avodah von Yidden b'koyach atzmam. So therefore Yidden existing in this world, in this reality, where the world is teifes makim, and they come now and serve the Eibishter, it's being done on their own koyach. They're coming and choosing to serve the Eibishter, and it's creating the Dire completely on their own koyach. The Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu is not being sensed here in this world, and is not what's influencing their Avodah. Und damit is move on. So with this we understand as das was jeden vier neus die tachas hakavana von Nesava Kadosh Baruch Hu lias leis barach dir betachteinem. This that Yidden fulfill the purpose of creation, that Hashem desired for there to be a dwelling in this world, is this an anayfim von atzlacha. We could apply to this idea that there's a success, there's something more that Yidden are doing on their own, even more than what's being envisioned in the ratzon for Hashem in the creation. Yes, as ati kavane is hecher von zum nimshach werden in ratzon agole of elamis, because this kavana of Hashem, as He is to Himself, the real kavana of the Eibishter, not related to elamis, this is something which is not revealed and not connected to the reality of the world. And not even in the highest level of the ratzon of the Eibishter, that's the beginning of the process of creation. And therefore, when Yidden fulfill this dir b'tachtainim, they are connecting to that kavana, to the purity of the essence of the Eibishter Himself, and that's hatzlacha. That's even more than what was envisioned in the plan of creation, beginning with the ratzon for Eilamus. Okay, so this is the third aspect of Simchas Torah, right? The Simchas Torah that's connected to the Shara Yatzlacha, as we'll see. The Rebbe will explain over here. Afal pi as the dir was Yidden schaffen bekoyach atzmam. So even though this dir b'tachtainim that the Yidden create on their own. So this is something that really anything and everything and all the details that a Yid does in their Avodah is really the Yid with himself, serving the Eibishter, and it's all contributing to the Dir B'Tachtainim. But the Rabbi here is going to explain to us how this is connected specifically to the third aspect of Simchas Torah, the minig of Simchas Torah. So there, the Rebbe says as follows: Shteit is begaloi. However, this is something which is more felt and it's more sensed and more revealed than that is zemekayim nit mitzadei zetam v'cholo. When a yid does a mitzvah not for some kind of a reason, nor mitzadem was v'tzivano, but he's only doing it because the Eibishter commanded. Nit mitzad des gula was da bekim tzivya mitzvah. Not because of any sgula, because of any accomplishment that he's coming to through fulfilling the mitzvah. B'lashna yidua, the expression that Alter Rebbe says, afilu nitztavinu lachtevetzim, that a yid would do anything Hashem wants, even if you would say just to chop wood, and you don't see any accomplishment in what you're accomplishing, but nevertheless, he would do the mitzvah just b'tzivana, because the Eibishter commanded to do so. Und euch in the minion from Minhag Yisrael. And also, when it comes to the things that we do that are only minhagim, customs. Hayais, why? Why over here do you have specifically this Avodah b'koyach atzmam, the fact that Yidden are doing the Avodah on their own, expressed more here? Hayes, as if Zay is Nidok in Civil Mamayla. When it comes to a minig, there's no command from above. B'meila kommen sie in ganzen bekoyach von Yidden allein. So therefore, this is something that comes completely from the Yidden on their own. So besides the point that the Rebbe said before, which wasn't explained clearly, but the Rebbe says that when you do a mitzvah, that you see the reason, you see what you're accomplishing. So this is also not so much something that you're doing just on your own, choosing to do so, because you're just doing it, being influenced and connecting to the reason that you see of what you're going to accomplish. You see the accomplishment, so that's what's pushing you to do it. When you do it just because of the vitzivanu and you see no accomplishment at all, so you're just doing it vitzivanu. So over here, you don't see how your actions are accomplishing it, but you're doing it anyway. So that also expresses a certain aveda that a yid does b'koyach atzmai. And also, and in a way, even more so when it comes to a minig, when there isn't even a tzivui. There's no command at all, and therefore yid is just doing it completely with his own koyach, because the minig, the shayrish of yidden. So the says, the Rebbe explains what this means is, the Ratznel, as Yidden soll mekayim zan di minhagi Yisrael. This that Hashem desires that a Yid should come and fulfill the minhagim, the customs. So what the Rebbe is pointing out over here is that when there's a Yid fulfills a minig, all the minhagim that there are, and here we're speaking about the minig of Simchas Torah, this is also Hashem's Ratzn. Hashem also wants Yidden to do these minhagim. But why is it only a minig? Why is there no command for this in the Torah? Not min ha-Torah, not mit Rabbanan. If it is Hashem's Ratzon, is fablibin noch mer behelem. It's because Hashem's desire remains removed. It remains within by the Eibishter himself, and therefore it's not expressed. It doesn't relate to our reality. We can't sense it in our existence here in this world. This is the Ratzon of Torah and mitzvahs b'chlal. Like it's even more concealed than the Ratzon of the Eibishter as it is regarding Torah and mitzvahs in general. Even though b'chlal, when you get to the Ratzon of Torah and mitzvahs, it's not at all compared to the Ratzon that the Rebbe spoke about before. The Ratzon regarding Eilamis, when the Eibishter creates the world, the Ratzon of Eilamis is the beginning of the existence and the significance of the world. The Ratzon of Torah and mitzvahs is much deeper. That's the Pnimiyus Ratzon of the Eibishter, not related to anything. But nevertheless, the Ratzon of Torah and mitzvahs is expressed in Hashem commanding us to do so. So saf, when you command someone, it has to be related to our mitzvahs. So therefore, it's something that we could sense. The Ratzon of the Eibishter is being nisgala to us. But the Ratzon in a minig is so deep that it remains unsaid. It remains within the Eibishter itself. Biz as avzei is afilakin sivinida, and therefore there's no command for this at all. That's the essence of what a minig is. And thus is the beer not coming back to the third and highest point and the highest level of Simchas Torah. So this is the explanation with derech efsher was durch ein minig lemeved Yisrael ima chedva. Why it is that through fulfilling the minig of Simchas Torah, when Yidden rejoice with the Torah, is min danach ma'atren l'sefer Torah bekesed delay. So we draw down and we crown the Torah with its crown. Was der kesed Torah is hechaf and Torah. The crown of Torah is higher than Torah itself. Afile vizi is mitzad luchas shnius. Even higher than the level of Torah, which is the second set of luchas. The Rebbe explains. The luchas shnius, the second set of luchas, af alpi azen zei is ikerat goshev kabbalas haluchas vahat Torah mitzad yidden. Even though we said before, the second set of luchas is related to bracha, which is the bracha that the recipient receives. And we're focusing on the Yidden accepting the Torah. And therefore, l'chayre here, the main point is the Yidden from below, that they should do their Aveda. From deswegen, but nevertheless, it's not fully expressed here in the second luchas. Wie bald, as gegeben geworden l'mayla. Even the second luchas were also given from above. Ubedugmas habracha. And the truth is, it's the same also with a blessing. Was hagam is the mit eisen, the tielis from the mizbarach. When you give a bracha to someone, so you're focusing on the needs or the whatever benefit the person that's being blessed has. Kommt sie aber doch von dem mevarach. But nevertheless, there is someone that's blessing. This is a hamshacha. This is something that's coming from the person that has the koyach to bench. So therefore, the second luchais are still not related to the level of soif maise that we're speaking about here, which is the deeper shot of soif maise. Not only soif maise, the completion of the hamshacha, where the hamshacha comes into its fullest extent to the recipient, that he absorbs it and he takes a bipnimius, but it's still just taking in what comes from above, even though he's taking a bipnimius, but he's taking from above. But soif maisa means a certain soif, an end result that's accomplished from below, from the recipient himself, even more than the maisa, than the completion of the action from above. Aber Meile wird durch sie nicht lang bloß die Kavane, wie sie es nimschach geworden betrilles am Machshava. So therefore, even in the Luchas Shnias, it's only completing what was there originally in the level of Machshava, in the Trilles HaMachshava, which is related to the existence of Yidden. Durch dem, or the existence of the world. Durch dem aber, was Yidden sind sich neue Gleme, wat chulu ima chedva. But when the Yidden are fulfilling the minig, to rejoice with the Torah, zu vereinen sich mit der Torah, schon nach den Sinnes HaTorah Momaila. Now, the Eibishter gave Yidden the Torah, the Yidden received the Torah, the first Luchais, the second Luchais. Now Yidden learn Torah, and on their own, they come with their Aveda to rejoice with the Torah. Is es medugmet zum Inyan Atzlache. Here, this is an expression of the Aveda of the Yidden B'koyach Atzmam, and this is connecting to the Atzlache. This is the absolute success, the success meaning even more than Kavayachal the Eibishter envisioned. The Ratzon of Eilamis does not have this. This is something which is removed, the purity of the Eibishter which remains completely removed. And therefore, when Yidden do this minig, they're connecting to that level. This comes after all the Hamshachal Mulmaila comes b'shleimus. Now the Yidden on their own are doing their minig, was does the langt in their kavane fun tchila. The Eibishter's kavane of Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu, the way it remains to himself, even higher than the Ratzon of Elamis. Das ist hecher von Tchilas HaMachshava. It's higher than the level of Tchilas HaMachshava that comes down in the Ratzon for creation. So this is the third gate of Atzlache that's open in Simchas Torah that comes to the minig of Yidden to celebrate Simchas Torah. So this is the conclusion of the Hasber of the three levels, Shari Eire, Shari Bracha, Shari Atzlache, related to the three levels of Matan Torah. Shari Eire, the revelation that comes from above, to express the Ma'ir, express the light that comes from above, which is the Matan Torah. And then the bracha, the recipient, to absorb and take b'pnimiyus that bracha, which is in the second set of luchais. And then the ultimate seif ma'isa, the aveda of dirbe tachtainen that Yidden do b'koyach atzmam, that they rejoice with a minig, and that connects with an oifen of atzlacha to the very essence of the Eibishter, that's beyond any level of ratzon that there is in creation. Now, al pikala now, after all of this, vet aber die shaila now sifaluf noch gresse. Coming back to the beginning, the question that we had in the beginning of the Sikha, so now that question becomes even greater. What was the question that Rebbe focused on at the beginning of the Sikha? That Oira and Bracha, these gates of Oira and Bracha are here even before Torah. Why do you need this? Why can you take this only through Torah? And now the question is, wie bald as der Reif von Simchas Torah is der Inyan von Atzlache? If the whole accomplishment of Simchas Torah is the custom of Simchas Torah, that we celebrate, the minig, that Yidden on their own can come through their Aveda to this level of Atzlache, und der Inyan von Eire Bracha, and the two levels of the revelation of the light from above, and the Bracha from the Eibishter, zenen da euch bei Luchas Harishayne Shvuas. That's already brought down, when the Eibishter gave the Torah, the light comes down by the time of Matan Torah, Shvuas. By Luchas Shnias Yom Kippurim, and that the second set of Luchas is the Eibishter gave by Yom Kippur. So was wird gesagt in der Siche? So why is the Frierdiker Rebbe saying in the Siche as euch Shari Eire und Shari Bracha, that also these two levels of Eire and Bracha sind verbunden mit Simchas Torah Dafke, are related with specifically with Simchas Torah, which really refers to the deepest level of the Simchas Torah, which is the minig of Simchas Torah, the Hatzlacha of Simchas Torah. So even though the Rebbe did explain to Leah that there are three aspects in Simchas Torah itself, because Simchas Torah includes both Shvuas, the Matan Torah, and it includes the Luchas Shnias, but nevertheless, Simchas Torah, what the Frierdiker Rebbe said, refers to the unique chiddush of what Simchas Torah itself is that you don't have before, not Shvuas and not the Luchas Shnias. So if the Frierdiker Rebbe is saying that even Shari Eire and Shari Bracha are going to be taken through Torah, and which Torah? The Torah of Simchas Torah is referring specifically to the special new chiddush of Simchas Torah, which is the minig of rejoicing of Simchas Torah. Why is Shari Eire and Shari Bracha related to the unique chiddush of Simchas Torah, if that's something which is connected to Matan Torah and the Luchas Shnias of Yom Kippur? So the answer to this is with the following introduction. Here the Rebbe takes this to yet a deeper level. So we find, as durch der Aveda v'limud kedaboi, that when a Yid serves Hashem properly, learns properly, yagaita, by the effort and toiling from a Yid here in this world, vert nitaisif in Torah. A Yid could even actually add, a Yid could innovate and add more into Torah. Biz as medarf mechadish zayin b'Torah. A Yid has to innovate and bring in new novel ideas in Torah. La Fishel, expression that it says in Zohar that Rabbi mentioned so many times. La Fishel, every Yid has an obligation to learn and add his own ideas and to be mechadish through learning in Torah. So just like this is true regarding learning Torah, so the same thing is also what we were discussing the whole Sikha here by Minhagi Yisrael when it comes to the Minhagim. Was Minig Yisrael Torah, that a Yid, the Yidden, so they create customs and this becomes Torah. So it comes out as durch dem was Yidden für in einer Minig, when Yidden create a certain custom, kommt zu b'Torah. So just like you could add in the words of Torah, in the understanding of the subjects of Torah, you could also add another custom and it becomes part of Torah. So this is something that needs to be explained. Hey Nemes, yes, it's true. What is this koyach that Yidden have? Yidden have a koyach to be machadish more than what we have explicitly in the Torah. Yidden have a koyach to be machadish a minig more than what we have in Torah. So yeah, that could be explained according to what we brought earlier in the Sikha. As mitzadem was the sheidish from the Shamis Yisrael as hechef in Torah, because the sheidish of Yidden is even higher than Torah. Can verstehen, wie Yidden kennen öftan a neue Minyan in Torah. So therefore it's possible that a Yid learns in Torah, and the Torah does not contain this idea in it, and the Yid has a koyach through the sheidish of his neshama, which is higher, to be mechadish something new that's not in Torah. Says aber nachhalten to move on, but the question though is, wie azoi vet oter inyan. But how though does this new subject that the Yid brings down from the level of his neshama, or befrat, and especially what we're speaking about here, this that a Yidden could innovate through creating a new minig, a Chelek fun Torah. How does that become part and parcel of Torah itself? This becomes an addition of a part of Torah itself. How does it become part of Torah? The Sheidish of Yidden is higher than Torah, but not that how though does it become a Chelek of Torah itself? Das heißt, and the Rebbe clarifies here, nit nor is men mechuyev zu tan die Gzeres v'atakones v'amenhagis was chachamim haben mechadish gewen. Not only is one obligated to fulfill all those decrees or institutions or customs that the chachamim innovated, nor ze werden a chelik von Torah. It becomes part and parcel of Torah itself. Und wie steht the Lashon Kanal, as it says regarding all the menhagim, Benegeit zum Menhagi Yisrael, regarding all customs that Yidden have, afile benegeit zum Menhagim was nit verbunden mit Besen HaGadol. And this includes even menhagim that Yidden have a custom to fulfill, not those that come from the Besen HaGadol that instituted. As minig Yisrael Torah, that the minig of Yidden becomes part of Torah. Yidden are being machadish a minig, and the chiddush of this minig becomes part of Torah. How? What's the hezbollah for this? Is the beer in them? So the explanation here is as follows. In Torah, there are in Torah two different aspects. Aleph, number one, the Torah is Chachmasai Uritzayni Yizbarach, the level of Torah which is Hashem's wisdom and Hashem's will, which is explained and expressed in Torah. So it's this aspect of Torah, Hashem's wisdom and will in Torah is Torah isgestellt. Torah has been formulated. Azoi, and therefore, as an faran in Yonim, v'zeveren is chadish durch Yidden. There is the Torah the way it's formulated, and then there's the aspects that Yidden could be machadish more than what's formulated in the Torah. That's one aspect of Torah. So if it was only this level of Torah, what Yidden are machadish does not become part of Torah itself. But then there's another aspect in Torah. Das was the source of Torah, the essence of Torah, which is one with the essence of the Eibishter himself. The Torah is the Torah is rooted in the very essence of the Eibishter himself. So it's in this level of Torah it's possible that this new concept of what a Yid is being machadish in Torah, even more than the way Torah is formulated, will become a part of Torah itself, Kedlahalan, as the Rebbe explains right here. Vibalt, and the reason is as follows. Vibalt, as the Kavana Halyayna is the Eibishter's purpose. What did the Eibishter want when he gave us the Torah? So you could look at the Torah the way it's revealed. You can look at the Torah the way it's formulated. But what was really the ultimate purpose of Hashem giving us the Torah? As Yidden soll mechadish sein in Torah, b'koyach atzmam. That Yidden should learn the Torah and that Yidden should innovate and Yidden should come up with new ideas in Torah on their own. Similar to the general point that we said before regarding the Hatzlacha of a Yid, that the Kavan of the Eibush and the Sava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyas Leidir B'Tachteinim is that a Yid should do the Aveda on his own and make the Dira from below. It's the same thing also with the Eibush giving us Torah, that the Eibush gave us the Torah, but the Kavan of the Eibush that remains by the Eibush himself, it remains removed of the way Torah comes out and is formulated. But the true kavanah that remains by the Eibishter himself, which is what the essence of Torah is, that the Yidden should be mechadish in the Torah. Was durch dem wird gebracht, zeh sheirish and atzmusi yisbarach. And this is what reveals the sheirish of who a Yid really is, that he's higher than the chachma and the ratzon of Torah, and therefore the essence of the Yid, which is connected to the essence of the Eibishter, could be mechadish in the Torah. Therefore, noch den wir Yidden durch sehr mechadish sein an inyan poilen am shachas atzmos. After the Yidden learn Torah and are mechadish a subject in Torah, and they are drawing down and they're connecting to the very essence of the Eibishter, tun ze oif di am shacha oich in Torah. So they reveal this aspect or this source of what Torah itself is. The Torah is also rooted in the essence of the Eibishter. Al derech v'yeh steht in Sefer Rabbi. This is similar to what it says in the Sefer Rabbi, as David hayeh mechaber Torah b'kutshei b'richa. When David HaMelech learned Torah, so he did not only receive from the Torah, but he actually gave Torah. In other words, he revealed and elevated Torah back to its source in the essence of the Eibishter. Und der Rebbe, so therefore, wird der Chiddush, so therefore this Chiddush that the Yid innovates in Torah. The Rabbi explains, this is side the Chidushim was Yidden learning up from Torah al Yidei Gaita. This includes those Chidushim that a Yid learns and innovates in Torah and the learning. And then also all the other customs and what Chachasal instituted was Yidden Zene Machadish, that Yidden add a Chelek from Torah. This becomes part of Torah itself. This is in Atzmos, by the essence of the Eibishter, this is really what the purpose of giving us the Torah is all for. For Yidden to be mechadish in Torah, and then to reveal the essence of the Yid, which is in the essence of the Eibishter, and therefore this is what the essence of the Torah itself is. Mitzad the Eibishter, that's what the essence of Torah is, in order for Yidden to be mechadish in the Torah. This explains why it's so important for a Yid to be mechadish in Torah. Many times the Rebbe would bring the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, that every Yid has a chiyuv to be mechadish in all sections of Torah. Now, coming back, this will also explain regarding the three gates of heaven that are open on Simchas Torah, the Shari Eire, Shari Bracha, and Shari Atzlacha. So even though seemingly only the Shari Atzlacha is that unique level of success which is related to the minig of Simchas Torah, but yet the Shari Eire and the Shari Bracha is also connected to the unique minig of Simchas Torah. Again, was in the Sicha Anal as nit no Shari Atzlacha, not only the gates of Atzlacha, of the minig of the Yidden of Simchas Torah, no Shari Eire and Shari Bracha, the light of Matan Torah and the bracha of the Luchas Shnias haben a shaychus to Simchas Torah is related to Simchas Torah, was wird aufgetan durch Yidden, which is created through the minig of Yidden. Hagam as eure bracha is an faran euchen Torah wie es mitzad atzma. Even though the light of Torah and the bracha of Torah is really something that's given from above, that's there from before. What's the reason for this? Amit this inyan von eure is, what's the true source and concept of the light of the Torah? The light of the Torah is not only the expression of the Torah that comes out from the source. The real light of Torah is as is meir begile alt was is da in ma'ir. The light is really a full reflection that contains in it everything of what's in the ma'ir, in the essence, in the source itself. Light is not just an expression that's some other entity from the source itself. The light has no metzias for itself. What is the light? It's just an expression completely of whatever there is in the source. Even this that can't be expressed and cannot be experienced in the revelation of the light, but nevertheless, that's really what the light contains in it. The light has in it the nature, so to speak, of what the source of the essence of the Eibishter himself is. Rabbi here brings the last thought in the Sikha over here regarding the concept of mitziyusei matzmusei, the nature, so to speak, of the Eibishter himself is all there. That power is there in the light itself. We just finished learning Siman Chaf of Yigeres HaKodesh, where the Alter Rebbe explains Barichas, the koyach of to create yesh ma'ayin, is the koyach of mitziyusei matzmusei that exists in the light. That's the real concept of light lamaila. The same could also say, did I miss something over here? I read that. And the same could be said also regarding bracha, that when the Eibishter benches, the bracha really contains the entire source of the essence of the Eibishter himself that comes out in the bracha. So therefore, even Oira and Bracha, there are seemingly only two different levels, and not the real level of Hatzlacha, which is related to the essence, but really Oira and Bracha, through the Hatzlacha of the Minig Yisrael of Simchas Torah, it reveals the true essence of what Oira and Bracha are. So since the true concept of Torah is this that the Eibishter and his Torah are all one, the very essence of the Eibishter. So then what happens is, it comes out as dafke b'simchas Torah. It's specifically on Simchas Torah. When Yidden zene ma'atren l'sefer Torah bekesed. When the Yidden with their minig draw down higher than Torah, with the crown of Torah. So therefore they reveal the source of Torah and the Atzmos, and the essence. V'Torah is mushtish and Atzmusi is barach. It's only then, and specifically then, this brings the full revelation of the other two gates of heaven, the Oira and the Bracha as well, zusammen. So zusammen mit die Shari Hatzlacha, euch die Shari Oira und Shari Bracha. This reveals the other aspects of Torah, the aspect of by Matan Torah, the Oira of Torah, and the Bracha, the Luchas Shnias of Torah, betachlis Hashleimus, in the full ultimate level, the real Oira and real Bracha, and in its true source and the essence of the Eibishter himself. So therefore, the Friedrich Rebbe is telling us that in Simchas Torah, and don't forget, this means kipshutei mamish, that in Simchas Torah, when you're dancing and rejoicing with the Sefer Torah, you have the highest gates of heaven, of Shari Hatzlacha, which refers to the very essence of the Eibishter, which is revealed, and therefore brings down the Oira of Torah and the Bracha of Torah, and its ultimate shleimus and its ultimate source, all on this day of Simchas Torah.